It's Thursday, April 12th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we learn about Town Manager Mark Ellis' commitment to engaging our youth in civic and public service, and we explore all the trails the Land and Preservation Committee have planned for their spring walking event coming up this weekend. Let's start with some news you can use. It's not too early to start thinking about beach days. Parking permits will be on sale in person beginning on Monday, May 7th at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center on 141 Bassett Lane in Hyannis. Parking permits, or beach stickers for us locals, applications have been emailed to all those who have provided an email address last year. This is a convenient way for residents to obtain their permits. We ask that you complete and mail your permit application with all of the required documentation, or if you choose, prior to May 7th, you may drop off the application and required documentation at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center with payment and a self-addressed stamped envelope. The application will be processed and the permit will be mailed back to you. The turnaround time is approximately 3 to 4 weeks. The John F. Kennedy Hyannis Museum's 4th Annual Ambassadorship Day, held last Friday, was a chance for our town manager, Mark Ellis, to participate on a panel with other Cape area town leaders and legislators to talk to students about the value of public service and how they can get involved in their communities. We're here with Mark Ellis, town manager, and Mark, you had a great event this past week, the Ambassador Day ship at the JFK Museum. Can you talk a little bit about that? I thought that was amazing.
Oh, it was a wonderful event. It's an annual event. This was the 4th annual, where they bring, in this case it was juniors, high school juniors from across the Cape, public schools, charter schools, private schools, also students from Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket together. There were about 75 juniors there. We gathered both to talk about public service and to talk about civic engagement. And we had breakout sessions where I was on a panel with I was on with our superintendent, Meg Mayo-Brown, and the town manager from Sandwich, Bud Dunham. And we had an opportunity to very briefly say what our backgrounds were, but really to have a conversation with the students about why it's important to understand and even consider public service in some capacity, whether it be a career, whether it be on a board, commission, committee, or whether it is them deciding to become a part of, be a coach to a youth program, teach reading at your local library, or engage more aggressively through being on a school-related board, or in our case in Barnstable, they can be on the youth commission. So it was a great opportunity to emphasize how important that is, and that they can make a difference. And in fact, my plea was a call to action on their part, that they really need to step up. It's not just a thought. They need to take action. What they have to say matters, and without them, we're not going to be the community or the state or the country that we can be. And it's not a if, it's a when, and when is now, and let's get going. And I'm just so thrilled that the JFK Museum had asked me to participate in it.
Right.
But I hear this, whether it's our public schools, whether it's up at the college. I've had recent opportunities to speak relative to civic engagement there. Certainly as part of our mission that our town council here in town establishes, engaging the public is part of our core mission as an organization. And to be able to go to our youth and involve them and let them know that their involvement is meaningful is actually a personal, professional priority, I guess, for me, because I truly believe without that, we're not sustainable.
Right. So how are some of these students already engaging? You must have seen some of them
They-
have.
Yeah, we had discussions about their activities now. I think a lot of them, the questions that we got were good in the sense that they were trying to understand how they could be involved. And, certainly I encourage them. Each of us shared a different, perspective on it, but I encourage them, to look at themselves and understand what's important to them. If it's literacy, if it's helping people in need, if it's the environment, whatever it might be. What's your passion? If it's music, if it's art, all of those things are applicable in the sense that you can go out there, engage in another, to me, the engagement can be one-on-one with another person. It can be more broad through your school or your church or your organizations. It can be through your community. And I said, call upon your leaders. Each of the kids there have a superintendent and a principal. It's okay to call upon them and say, I want to be involved. What do you recommend?
Right.
But one of my first questions will be, because I actually have a lot of young people that know that I approach this the way that I do, and they call me up about references. They call me up about, where might I get involved? And that's such a, it's a wonderful thing, but they should be. That's what
Right.
we're here for. That's what the various people in roles of authority are there for. Ask your town councilors, ask your church leaders. Again, that's why we're here. So we had that sort of back and forth, and they were all, a few of them were very specific in what they were doing and already active, but most of them just wanted to figure out, okay, how do I do this? Because all of them had interests, and to be able to go beyond just themselves and share that and become engaged and involved, I could see them all, the wheels were turning. How am I going to do this?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting too. We had just saw the Citizens Academy this past week as well, and just as you were speaking, the towns across the Cape and the Islands could somehow maybe modify that for students. I think a barrier to some students is the lack of understanding of really what your town does and what that civic engagement within your town is. Department names don't always make sense.
Yeah.
What is planning?
Right.
Some kids wouldn't really even know that.
Right, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could certainly offer a civics 101 at the appropriate level, and but I guess my call to action to our students is don't wait for that. Go, do it. We have a wonderful water sampling program here on Cape Cod in our embayments, and they're always looking for water samplers. So if somebody's interested in environment, you can certainly say to them that opportunity is there. Get involved. Shell fishing. There's just the Cape offers so much more as far as it has everything that every other community has plus in our programming, in the environment that we share here and we look out for, and our youth needs to be engaged in that.
Exactly. That's a great point, and we saw quite a few youth at the town council meeting this last week as well.
I know. I was proud of all. I was
Was
proud
that
that
great?
they took their time to show up at that meeting, because
Right.
time is of value to all of us. They took their time to come in and say, this is important to
After
us.
a game,
Yes.
all in uniform.
That's what you want to see.
You
You
do.
want to hear from and this isn't just to the youth, this is for everybody, but certainly when it's important to you, show up and let us know, and it makes a difference.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little segue into it's almost over. The capital budget is starting to make its moves through the town council. You feeling things are moving the way you want them to? And
Oh,
that's-
absolutely, absolutely. For us, budgeting never stops.
Right.
And it's very interesting that we a lot of people will think it's almost a it's kind of an unknown going in. What will happen? There's no unknowns here. I mean, we're a $200 million operation plus capital. We need to plan out based on the strategic plan the town council establishes. We need to align our resources, whether they're capital or operating, with the priorities that are established in our strategic plan. We need to communicate regularly with our leadership, which we do, as to what our capacities are in each respective area, what we will move forward within each respective area, so that when we bring forward, in this case, a capital budget, there's no surprises. It's exactly what we should be doing. The greatest challenge we have is that we have $50 million with only $25 million worth of capacity in a given year. So how do we prioritize? What decisions do we make relevant to perhaps deferral of a particular project to a future year? What are the ramifications of that? Does it mean that something might fail? Does it mean that it might cost more to maintain? Does it mean that a program or service won't be able to continue? And we need to balance that, because over the next 10 years, we have about $250 million worth of capital programming. And so we really need to think about that. We also need to think about, in preparing the budget, who Barnstable is and where we are on the Cape market, in the state market, and in our national and international market. And we're not like other communities. People come here from all over the world, and when they come here, they expect something, and it's not an average something. They're coming here as a visitor. It might be the one vacation they get to take a year, and our beaches and our marinas and our main streets and the events we hold have to be to the level that they expect and they want, or else they won't be here again. Same with our residents, same with our businesses. So the way that we plan for capital is different. It's not just pave a road. It's not just, okay, we'll just do this average and it'll be okay. That's not okay. I mean, when we jump back to the where our youth showed up relevant to the athletic fields at the high school, I mean, if you look at what's changed in public education over the last decade and a half, it's gone from I grew up in a town in Massachusetts, went to all through public schools. That's where you went. There were no choices.
Right.
That's what you did. If you were inclined to go to the tech, that was an option. But no, most of us, 95% of us, went to the public high school. Now, I was in a meeting with Pat Clark and Meg Mayo Brown, and we were talking about how many options here in Barnstable somebody in high school has, including online. And I think Pat Clark said there were more than 10, maybe a dozen options for somebody. So not only are we a Division I school, not only do we have school choice, so you don't have to go to your local high school, but the marketplace has broadened in the sense that you got competition all around you. So if you're not offering the best product, they're not going to go there. And that's different than what our schools have been challenged with in the past. So I was so proud that the community supported that, the council supported it, and our youth were there to support it. That's where we need to go.
Right.
So.
That's fantastic. Hopefully, the process will be done shortly, in another month or so. So
I think we're 2/3 of the way through.
Two-thirds of the way through. They make for some long town council meetings. I think it was after midnight this past week. So it was great to speak with you, and really a great job with the Ambassador Day. I think this is a fabulous program that JFK Museum puts on, and the more that we can engage our youth, the better.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Farley Lewis, a Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee member, joined me in studio to talk about all the beautiful walks around the town of Barnstable planned for this upcoming weekend spring walking event. Now that it's spring, it's about time to get back out there and work off some of that winter weight. We have just the event for you. Farley Lewis is with me here today, and you are a walk leader.
Yes, I
For
am.
the Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee, and you're sponsoring the spring walks this year.
That's correct, yes. The Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee has taken over the responsibility of the Cape Cod Pathways program, which was originally overseen by the Cape Cod Commission. And we now offer spring and fall walking weekends. And our next event is coming up starting this Friday, April 13th.
So it starts on Friday the 13th.
13th.
But these
Yep.
walks are varied in lengths
Yes.
and varied in ecosystems as well, and they're all over the villages, so there's something for everyone. Why don't you give us a kind of a brief overview of each of the walks?
Okay. Well, starting out on Friday, we get to a nice big view of the Great Marsh by walking from the Old Jail Lane area to the Audubon property, the Great Marsh property, and you get to see the uplands, woods, and then go off down into the marsh area, which is really coming to life now. So it's a great walk. Then on Saturday, April 14th, both these walks are now starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to lead a walk in and around the Barnstable Village area, starting behind the fire station. We'll be crossing through some areas of old ancient trails, and hopefully we will get to see some signs of spring, although everything is kind of moving a little slowly right now. Then Sunday at 8:30, we have a walk that goes is in the town of Cotuit, and that you get to look at this Santuit Pond, along with the fish ladder that's been newly restored, and a dam, plus the bogs, and it's very pretty. It's a lovely little walk. And then on Sunday, April 15th, Chris Clark is going to be leading at noon a Old Neck Lane walk, starting out of the community college parking lot. You get to that's a forest walk, which has been recently cleared due to the efforts of AmeriCorps Cape Cod.
Oh, we love those kids.
Want to thank them for all that work. Then Monday, April 16th, is Mary Richmond's leading a Hathaway's Pond Conservation Area walk, which is a bird and nature walk, and it'll be starting at 7 in the morning. So it's a short walk, but I think it'll be a walk of investigation where you really just take your time and look at things. Then finally on Monday, April 16th, Will Holden from the Barnstable Land Trust is going to lead a walk in Cotuit called a swamp walk, and it's at the Eagle Pond area, and that should be very good. Very interesting habitat. There's a white cedar swamp area there at the Eagle Pond Sanctuary, and that will be all.
That's
For
all.
spring.
Well, that's a lot. And you
Yep.
do a fall walking event too,
We
which
do.
we'll have you back, and you can talk about that one as well.
Yep. No, that it's great to. This is Patriots Day weekend, a long weekend for people to get out and enjoy some fresh air after
Right.
a long winter.
I think the weather's going to cooperate a little bit for us. It's not going to snow from everything that I've heard, so
Yeah.
I think we're good. No snow this weekend. Probably the first weekend in
Right.
April that we haven't had any snow.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about who goes on these walks. Is it just folks that are interested in land preservation, or is it families?
It can be any and all of the above. So I think of very small children. Probably this isn't appropriate for them, but otherwise I would encourage everyone to come on out. You learn something more about your town through the land that surrounds it. So,
Right.
you will get some exposure to the efforts of the various land trusts and conservation groups that are involved in this town, which is it's good.
Right.
There's a very strong
Well, some of
group
the
of
walks
people.
that
Yeah.
you have planned here go through some of the land trust
Correct.
things that have been
Right.
through the Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee. So you have
Correct.
helped purchase these lands so everyone can enjoy them.
Yes, absolutely. No, the town of Barnstable has been very responsible about preserving land and conserving land, and we really need to continue with that.
All right.
Yep.
So these walks are, they're approximate. So there's up to 4 miles, but then there's up
Right.
to like a 1.2.
Mhm.
How can people get more information on these walks, and who do they contact?
Okay. I would encourage everybody who's interested in these walks to go on the Land Acquisition and Preservation Committee's website, where you will see the full listing and a full description of the walks. We do have a brochure that's available in various locations. People are distributing them right now.
Okay.
But for a full description, you can get all the all the information you need right there. I think there's some shorter versions of this listing on the town website as well, but
Okay.
this will give you all your, where to meet and when.
Yep.
and
It
so
has
forth.
the
Yep,
the
and the
leaders
leaders.
for each of the walks,
Right,
their
and their
information.
contact information.
We're not
Right.
going to talk about rain, but if it's heavy rains, I'm assuming things aren't going to go off as planned.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. Heavy rain cancels most, unless, I would say, that's always my call. Anyway.
Yeah,
But,
it's a little tough to walk through knee-high mud, right?
Mud, yeah. Well, mud has not been an issue so much as just, if there's a lot of water out there. And so, at any rate, it's, so let's just keep our fingers crossed on the weather, as always.
And I would be remiss if I didn't remind folks, my friend Larry Dapsis from the county, is that ticks are out. It is
That
tick
is
season.
correct.
Tick season
Absolutely.
is year-round here on the Cape. It's
It
so
never
make
ends.
sure that you're protecting yourself for ticks. And I think the poison ivy might be budding at this point.
I have not seen active poison ivy,
Okay.
but that doesn't mean it isn't out there and you can't be exposed to it.
Right.
So I always recommend people definitely wear long pants and
Yep.
good
Sturdy
sturdy
shoes.
shoes. Yeah.
Sturdy shoes and a bottle of water.
Bottle of water, so that'll see you through. Definitely, dress for the conditions, not for style.
Well, thanks so much
Good,
for
okay.
joining us,
Oh, yeah.
Farley. This looks like a wonderful weekend.
Good.
I am, really pulling for great weather this weekend.
Thank you very much.
And now here's a look at our community calendar. Britt Biedenbender, Precinct 4 Barnstable Town Councilor, will be holding office hours on the second Thursday each month at Centerville Library in the Hyannisport Conference Room. Address your concerns and get your questions answered. Equinox, the annual Barnstable High School fashion show, will be on April 12th, 6 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. Tickets are $5 for student and children and $10 for adults, and can be purchased in advance or at the door tonight, cash or check. This yearly event showcases all original handmade designs from our fashion design students. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for a Sturgis Library interview with Corey Fahrenkopf, and Tim McGrath from Barnstable Recreation gives us all the details for the annual Barnstable Recreation Department's Kids Patriot Day race. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.